I'm Peter Austin, that is the wreck of a Type UB-3 U-boat, and this is interesting. Launched on the 26th of October 1917 and officially entering active service around a month later, U-boat UB-85 would only last about 6 months in the waters around the British Isles before sinking in the North Channel, the strait between Belfast and Galloway, in April 1918. This wasn't unusual for such craft, actually. Many U-boats of this kind would be lucky to see a year of service, if not succumbing to the Allied Navy, then to faults or accidents. However, if we're to believe one report that cites the testimony of U-boat captain Gunther Krech, something entirely different was responsible for the sinking of UB-85. This is the story of a World War I sea monster. I definitely have a touch of thalassophobia, the fear of deep bodies of water and what might be hiding in their murky depths. Eels, octopuses, jellyfish, sea snakes. The only shark I want in my life is Surfshark, the sponsor of today's video. The fact is, the internet has its own fair share of hidden dangers lurking just beneath the surface. But fortunately, Surfshark VPN can help protect your connection by hiding your IP address and encrypting your data, especially if you're using unsecured public Wi-Fi or perhaps traveling overseas. And speaking of going abroad, you can also use Surfshark to switch your virtual location, which not only unlocks region-specific discounts when buying things like flights online, but also lets you access media on streaming sites that might not be available in your country. For example, and sticking with the ocean theme, I've always been morbidly curious by the film Waterworld, which just recently got added to Netflix in the USA, but not here in the UK. Fortunately, thanks to Surfshark, I was finally able to sit down and watch it and conclude that it's not quite as bad as people say. Result. Best of all, you can connect multiple devices to one account, meaning my wife gets to enjoy all the same benefits as me at the same time. Waterworld on one screen, American reality TV on another. Truly a house of culture. So if you're interested in giving Surfshark a go and bagging a great deal while you're at it, head to surfshark.com/Peter or use code Peter at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. There's even a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can give it a try risk-free. Unfortunately for the German Navy, though, there was no money-back guarantee to cover the sinking of UB-85. Spotted on the surface at around 2:45 AM on the 30th of April 1918 by HM drifter Coreopsis II, the sub was fired upon, causing it to dive. However, she only made it to a depth of around 39 feet before surfacing again after taking on a torrent of water. Floundering with no chance of escape, the crew soon surrendered and were taken prisoner, and the U-boat sank to the seabed. But this is where things get very strange indeed. According to the 1977 book Sea Monsters, a collection of eyewitness accounts by James B. Sweeney, Captain Lieutenant Gunther Krech, the man in charge of UB-85, made a remarkable claim under interrogation. 2 nights before, my submarine was on the surface recharging batteries. The moon was up and I was very nervous. We could easily be seen by an enemy patrol boat. Without any kind of warning, a strange beast began to climb aboard. The great weight of the animal gave us a list to starboard. We were in danger of shipping water through an open hatch and sinking. This beast had large eyes set in a horny sort of skull. It had a small head, but with teeth that could be seen glistening in the moonlight. Every man on watch began firing a sidearm at the beast. It had a hold of the forward gun mount and would not turn loose. After a vicious struggle in which my boat was almost swamped, the beast dropped back into the sea. Sweeney goes on to say that the damage done by the creature meant the U-boat could no longer submerge, and so, said Krech, this is why you were able to catch us on the surface. True or not, it's an extraordinary story. You might expect such tales from fishermen or perhaps the diaries of early ocean-going explorers, but it's not the kind of thing that typically crops up in a military interrogation from the Great War. That being said, such creatures did occasionally crop up elsewhere in both world wars. This image often circulates alongside a now debunked legend about a, quote, gigantic aquatic animal supposedly witnessed when U-boat U-28 sank the British cargo steamer SS Iberian in 1915, and even Nessie herself has her own, rather amusing entry in the military history books. It seems that the Axis powers in World War II were so intent on publishing propaganda pertaining to the death of Britain's iconic Loch Ness Monster that the poor beast was actually killed twice. In December 1940, the Aberdeen Press printed what they described as Dr. Goebbels' latest whopper, given out by the Nazi-controlled Radio Paris, which allegedly said, "It is reported from Glasgow via Stockholm that the Loch Ness Monster has struck a mine and its body has been found washed ashore in pieces on the west of Scotland." But then, only a year later, a similar story was released in Italy by Mussolini's newspaper Il Popolo d'Italia, in which a pilot claimed to have dropped a bomb on the beastie and watched her lifeless body float to the surface. The story was republished with much scoffing in the Daily Mail, as well as Australia's The World News, which states, alongside some rather fantastic illustrations, that the Italian thought his bombs had killed or maimed the monster. The English declare that what he thought was a spasm of agony was really a familiar British gesture of derision. The point is that sea monster sightings are just as likely, if not more so, to be hoaxes or misidentifications in a warfare scenario as they are under any other circumstance. And so the UB-85 story needs closer inspection. Now, cryptozoologists did get very excited for a moment when a cable-laying project by Scottish Power discovered this wreck lying on the bed of the North Channel in October 2016. Nautical archaeologists are pretty positive that it is a Type UB3, and with only one other such craft known to have gone down in the area, there's a good chance that this is our U-boat. However, it probably wasn't worth anyone getting too excited about organising a dive down there to look for giant claw marks on the hull, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the claims made in Sweeney's Sea Monster book do not actually appear anywhere in the official record of the sinking. It's very likely he simply made the whole thing up. But more to the point, other genuine testimony that was taken in the wake of the incident points to a far more embarrassing cause. According to the U-boat's chief stoker, Oberheitzer Julius Gutschammer, Commander Krech, that's the one who reportedly told the tall tale about the sea monster, had had a portable heater installed in the officer's room, which required cables to be run through the control room bulkhead door, preventing the crew from being able to seal it properly. It appears that when the U-boat dived after being fired upon by Coreopsis II, the man in charge of the conning tower hatch failed to close it properly, a grave mistake in itself, and the water that subsequently flooded into the sub was then able to easily enter the control room, courtesy of Commander Krech's heater cables, whereupon it flooded the battery cells and shorted out the submarine's power. In truth, then, it seems that UB-85 actually sank thanks to a monstrous series of errors and bad luck. And though Commander Krech probably wasn't very proud of the real reason for the sinking, there's actually no good evidence to suggest he ever tried to pin the blame on a sea serpent. In fact, I think the only thing we can be sure of from today's video is that the Loch Ness Monster is an indestructible war hero. I certainly hope she was given a medal or two. I've been Peter Austin, and that was interesting.